Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to all of you to our debate on music digital consumption trends. Today's debate is hosted by the EIF Steering Committee member Sabine Verheyen, member of the European Parliament with the EPP Group from Germany, and chair of the Culture and Education Committee. Thank you very much, Sabine, for taking the lead on this debate at our forum. I will leave you the floor in a moment, but first let me introduce our panelists of today. A warm welcome to David Price, who is Director of Insight and Analysis at IFPI, Séverin Merot, Music Operations Manager, Partnership, Artist and Label Relation at Huawei, and Antoine Monin, Managing Director at Spotify France and Benelux. Thank you all very much for joining us today. Now, with no further ado, I'll leave the floor to our hosting MEP, Sabine Verheyen, for her opening remarks. We will listen to your presentations, and then a Q&A session will follow later, as usual. So to our participants, be ready with your questions for our speakers. Over to you, Sabine.
Thank you very much, Maria Rosa. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues who are present with us here online, dear panelists, I'm very happy to host this online debate on music consumption trends today. I think there are several points to highlight at the beginning. The first one is the change of the patterns in music consumption over the last few years, and I'm looking forward to hear the contributions of our panelists in the presentation of the IFPI study by its Director of Insight and Analysis, David Price, on this topic. And secondly, representing today the European Parliament, I would like to address some regulatory challenges and see which instruments are at our disposal. And I hope that today's debate will help us to find new creative and innovative ways to address current challenges the European music industry is facing. Only a few people would doubt that culture is an essential element for our European identity, and music is one of its supporting pillars. Being a universal language of humankind since prehistoric time, music is used to express ideas and to transport emotions, thoughts, and ensuring in this way a powerful and profound impact on almost every facet of human society. Music holds a unique, cohesive power and brings us closer together, promoting intercultural dialogue and stimulating cultural tourism. At the same time, we have to recognize that the creative sector and music are just as essential for the European economy. Culture and creative industries employ millions, up to 10 million of people throughout Europe and generate 4.2% of the EU GDP. And therefore, we have to address the sector not only from the cultural and societal perspective, but as well taking into account all its importance for our economy. We have to recognize that the cultural sector is 2.3 times bigger than the automotive sector, and that is very often not seen when discussing about European economical policies. The IFPI report has shown the important role that music has played during the COVID-19 crisis, and during the lockdown, music helped us to stay positive, to resist and to overcome its crisis together. Almost 90% of participants of the study have confirmed that music provided them enjoyment and happiness during the pandemic, and 80% reported that music contributed to their emotional resilience and mental well-being. And these figures are very impressive also for us, and I'm truly thankful for all the artists that helped us to overcome this crisis, to stay healthy, to have a mental health also when being isolated. And I think it is very important to keep in mind that the cultural sector, and especially also music, is structurally relevant for our societies, and that we have to find the right ways that also this diversity, this mirror of our societies, that these traditional music sector also finds the right way to the new normal, to the situation that people are not going as often to concerts anymore, that people are not buying CDs anymore, but that streaming, that new ways of distribution of content took their way. And so I'm very happy to have all our speakers and guests on our very high classified panel today, with Antoine Monin, Séverine Merat, and as I already said, also with David Price. I think we will we are looking forward to a very interesting lunch debate we normally would have, but it's not lunch time at the moment anymore. But perhaps we come back also with our events someday to the normal. But also for the music sector, we have these changes. We also have to take a look on regulatory challenges that we have with the DSA, with the Digital Market Act, but also with other legislative acts that might have an impact on the way how music is consumed in future, and how and that's very important for us too, how the artists, how musicians, how the intellectual property right is secured, so that also in future we will have the same diversity. We can also contribute to our niche markets, where we have the wonderful diversity we know in Europe, with our being, as our motto says, unified in diversity. But just to be unified doesn't help. We need also our diversity. So I'm looking forward, and now I will pass to a good discussion afterwards, and I will pass the floor to the EIF Director General Maria Rosa Gebellini, who will present the panelists in detail. Please, Maria Rosa, the floor is yours now.
Thank you very much, Sabine, for introducing the topic so well. I liked what you said actually about music being a universal language of humankind since always. So it's so very true. Now the floor goes to our first speaker, David Price with IFPI, who has an interesting report to present to us today.
Thank you very much, Maria Rosa. Thank you to the EIF for inviting me to present to you. And of course, thank you to Sabine for hosting this debate and her extremely interesting and thorough introduction. I've got a few slides to present to you today. At IFPI, we are a global organization, and one of the key things that we wish to look at is how recorded music is used worldwide, how people are interacting with the music, how people are engaging with music, and the different ways in which people can access, listen to, and enjoy music. Each year, we put together something that we call the Music Consumer Study. This goes across 20-odd countries worldwide. You may have seen last year, and Sabine referred to it, our report called Engaging with Music. Engaging with Music is really a selected set of highlights from the much larger Music Consumer Study, which we publish for public consumption. I'm very interested today to be able to share a bit more detail on the data that goes behind engaging with music. And this is material that we gather for a very wide range of uses. The Music Consumer Study, the MCS as we tend to call it, was in 21 countries in 2021. 7 of those were in the EU: Germany, France, Italy, the Netherlands, Poland, Spain, and Sweden. We talked to 12,000 people across the EU, and these should be nationally representative. We're not just talking to people who are big music fans, we're talking to a broad swathe of the population in each of these countries, aged between 16 and 64. So one of the things I really want to emphasize today is the diversity of availability of music, the diversity of ways in which people can engage with, listen to, and enjoy music. One of the ways we look at that is by asking people how much time they spend listening to music across different formats. So across the EU, when we talked to people last year, they told us they were listening to about 19 hours of music each week. That's about 2.5 hours, a little bit more than 2.5 hours a day. And that goes across all of those people, aged 16 to 64, the 12,000 people we talk to on average within the EU. Now, where it gets really interesting is when we break this down by the methods they're using to listen to music. And this shows us some trends over time as well. So what we see to begin with is that audio streaming is now a very big part of people's music lives. Paid audio streaming, so subscriptions to services like Antoine's Spotify or to Apple Music, are taking up about a quarter of all people's music listening time. And that's supplemented by ad-supported audio streaming. So things like the free tier of Spotify or Deezer, where people can access music but listen to adverts in between. And you'll see increases in the amount of time and the amount of hours people have spent listening to those methods between 2019 and 2021. YouTube remains a very big part of people's lives. About 1/5 of all music on average is listened to through YouTube. There's a few other video streaming services that are a bit smaller. And then we see this new category that we introduced in 2021 of short form video. Basically in the EU, that tends to just mean TikTok. There are a few other apps out there, but the real focus here is on TikTok, which has started to dominate this space very much over the last couple of years. And just under 10% of all music engagement and music listening is taking place on those short form video apps. Social media is important. Radio remains very important to people's music lives, as does purchased music, CDs, vinyl, digital downloads, and a few other methods as well. But the big story here really over time is the importance of streaming. It's about 2/3 of all music listening that takes place in the EU at any one time. If we'd done this even 5 years ago, we would probably be half that. Streaming might be 1/3 of all music listening, but a lot lower than what we see today. We can also break that down by country. I've added Great Britain and Russia into the EU 7 countries that we talk to here, and you can start to see some of the differences between different countries. In Sweden, for instance, where Spotify first launched in 2008, paid streaming use is dominant. It's where Spotify probably has the greatest penetration worldwide. In countries like Germany, the Netherlands, Poland, radio remains really important. In Spain, YouTube and free audio streaming are some of the key ways in which people tend to access music. I will circulate these slides after the meeting so you can have a much better look at what's going on, but you can start to see some of the differences country by country in how people are accessing music. One of the other areas where we see significant differences in music consumption is when we look at this by age. So that's our EU average. That's the big pie chart donut thing that I showed you a couple of slides ago, just broken down as a bar chart. And when we show you this by age, you can see some big differences as we move through the age groups. For that youngest age group, 16 to 24-year-olds, number one, they're listening to the most music. Number two, they are listening to the most music through streaming, particularly paid streaming, particularly YouTube, and particularly for 2021 especially via short form video, that light blue bar there. And as people get older, we see a number of things. Firstly, the amount of time people listen to music starts to drop. People, aren't as engaged as they were when they're younger. We see the amount of time engaging with streaming dropping as well, but we also see a rise in older formats for music engagement, radio in particular. Licensed purchased content like CDs and vinyl start to go up as well. But again, this refers back to the diversity message, that ability of the record labels to make music available through as many different formats and as many different platforms as possible. Just a few other slides to give you a bit of flavor. This is engagement with those paid audio streaming services. So things like Spotify Premium. Across the EU, we have about 46% of people using a paid audio streaming service each month, highest in the youngest age groups. And you can see increases between 2019 and 2021 across all of those age groups. So we know that streaming has been driving revenues in the recorded music industry, and it's really interesting to see just how much engagement it's driving as well. This is data about short form video and particularly about TikTok use. What this shows is the percent of people who are engaging with TikTok in the bottom bar on a daily basis. So we have 23% of people within the EU using TikTok every single day. Another 8% use it each week, but don't use it on a daily basis. And another 5% in the EU maybe just get in touch with TikTok about once every month. But these figures are very, very high compared to where we were just a couple of years ago. In 2019, we had 2% of people in the EU who used TikTok. It had only just launched. I think they'd bought up, ByteDance bought up Musical.ly and a lip syncing app. But we've seen this massive explosion, particularly since the pandemic started, in TikTok use. And when we look at who's doing that, we see it's very, very focused on the youngest age groups, 16 to 19s, 20 to 24-year-olds. They're the people who are driving most of this TikTok consumption. And a lot of it is very much focused on music. For 16 to 19-year-olds, music discovery happens more often on TikTok than on any other music platform that we're aware of. We also know that music is absolutely central to what goes on these platforms. This is the total number of hours across our entire study that people spent on TikTok. 7 hours in Sweden, 7 hours in Brazil, all the way down to sort of 4 and a bit hours in Poland and slightly less in South Korea. On average across the EU, just under 6 hours a week. If you're using TikTok, you're using it for about an hour a day. But then we asked how much of that time is where music is central to what's going on. And about 70% of the time, people are watching videos where music is a key focus. Maybe it's a lip syncing video, maybe it's a dance challenge, maybe it's a recipe where there's music in the background, maybe it's a makeup tutorial, some comedy clip where there's music soundtracking the activity. But it's clear that an enormous amount of the focus on short form video content is on the music that's driving the content as well. Just a few more slides to give you a bit of flavor. I'm aware I might not have a huge amount of time here. One of the things we always ask about is domestic music listening, just to try and get a sense of how important local genres and local content is to people's listening and enjoyment of music. Across the EU, about 42% of all music listening time is artists from a person's own country. So in Italy, for instance, 49%, in France, 49%. So about half of all music listening in those two countries is of artists from Italy or from France. So really healthy sense of where the domestic music genres are informing people's music lives. There's a bit of a difference when we look at that by age. Younger people tend to listen to more international music. They tend to be more engaged and more interested in discovering newer content, but it's not a huge skew. You know, it is mostly domestic content that people are really starting to engage with. Just an idea of genre listening. Across 12,000 people in the EU, we found 63 different genres that people named as their single favorite type of music. So 63, and that was almost a short list. We could have gone larger. Across our 43,000 people in our 21 countries, we had something like 175 different genres that people picked up as their single favorite. What we also see again is that interest in domestic genres. In different countries across Europe, we see very large amounts of listening to either domestic language content or to genres that are particular to that country. In the Netherlands, Dutch hip hop is particularly popular. In France and in Italy, pop music in their own language is very much very heavily accessed. Okay, last slide, and I realize I am rushing through this very quickly, throwing a lot of data at you all at once. We end our survey asking people, if you had to pick one way to listen to music, what would it be? What would you choose if I made you pick only one method? This year we had, or 2021, we had 1/3 of people telling us that paid audio streaming, so that Spotify Premium, Apple Music, the Deezer Premium accounts, they would be the way that most people chose. Video streaming, so predominantly YouTube, chosen by about another quarter. And the radio, still very important. 1 in 5 people would choose to listen to music on the radio rather than any other method. There's big age differences there. The younger people understand the attractions of paid audio streaming, while for older people, the radio fills in as much music as they tend to want. Got a few other sources there as well. Free audio streaming, CDs and vinyl still appeal to a niche group. Piracy is ever present, of course, and that's something we need to be careful of. But the key here last year was a shift towards the recognition of the availability of all the music that's on licensed streaming services, the ability to pick any of those 60, 70 million licensed songs that are available on some of those premium streaming services. So we see a very rich and diverse music landscape across Europe and across the globe. We see a great amount of engagement with different music types. We see domestic music still very popular and very important to promote. Listening time is growing. People appreciate all the different ways in which they can engage with music. And obviously I would say this, but it's record company investment. It's their ability to license all that music and their willingness to engage with these different platforms that is really helping to drive those change. And we feel that at a policy level, the strong copyright framework that we have in Europe and the changes we've seen over the last few years really underpinning a lot of those positive developments. Thank you for listening. I'm more than happy to answer questions. I think we're going to have questions when the rest of the panelists have finished. So I will pass you back to Maria Rosa.
Thank you very much, David. Indeed, there's a lot more to say, I'm sure, about the study, but thanks for presenting it in such a short time. And then, of course, we will have more time during the Q&A to go deeper into some figures and some aspects of the study. It was very interesting to listen to it, all the more so, I think, because it was carried out during the pandemic as well, which, as you said, has changed some behaviors in consumption. But I think in a nutshell, indeed, what resonated with me was that diversity is still a key word here, just like Sabine said earlier in our opening. Now the floor goes to Severin Merad at Huawei.
Hello, hello. Oh, here we are. Okay, I will do a quick introduction to this newcomer that we are as a Huawei Music streaming service. So Huawei Music is a new streaming service launched by Huawei. It's available in all the Huawei ecosystem. So I'm Severin, working in music industry for more than 15 years now. I've worked for different indie labels like Piaz. I was in charge of the digital department over there for France. I've also worked for a major like Universal, where I was A&R for Mercury Records. I've moved from Napster 1.5 years now to launch this streaming service, Huawei Music. So basically, the service is live now for a year now. It's available in 16 European countries with the basic catalog of more than 70 million tracks. We provide a premium only service so far. We don't do a freemium on the service yet. About the full scenario and the music experience proposed by Huawei Music, we have basically local coordinator in each country where the service is available. They're working in label relation and weekly update for editor. This is a key contact for all this territory and for all the industries in this territory. We have also the sound effect function. This is a bunch of sound effects. So join the Huawei device for the total experiments with this, like the FreeBuds or the Huawei speakers we are developing in partnership with Devialet, for example. We have also an identify songs function. This is a function that all of you may know probably. It allows you to identify any songs from the catalog. A very interesting one also is the running mode connected with the Huawei Health service. This function will support your sport session with Huawei Music. So sport in music, it's always in the Huawei ecosystem. So about our involvement in creation and our collaboration with artists and label. So we have the ambition to make an impact and create value for artists, label, and all the content producers in the music industry. So as you may know, the service is for now is available in 5 regions with editorial team in relation with all the industry over there. The region are China and APEC, LATAM, MENA, and also Europe. We have also the ambition to develop a wealth creator service for the industry with a strong ecosystem already in place. So I'm talking about different in-app promotion for the different artists or release, but also investment as co-marketing campaign for different album or singles that makes sense. Bonjour. Ouais. Jusqu'à 16h30. Jusqu'à 16h30. Excusez-moi, je suis dans une présentation. Oui, 16h30. Excuse me. Where I was, sorry for that. So the service is available on all the different Huawei devices existing so far, like phone, tablets, and different television. It's new, but it's brand new, but now the service is also Android compatible. About the promotion, the service can propose to the different partner. So as I say, we want to be a creator of value for the music industry and propose a perfect experiment for all our subscribers. So the entire Huawei ecosystem is not dedicated to that through service as Huawei Video and Themes. Let's have a quick focus on Themes. Themes is a personification of your mobile to brand it, to brand your phone at the color of your favorite artist. It goes through different skins and wallpaper and ringtone. This kind of package. We are about to sign a deal for the world with Universal about this one, and still negotiating with major and main indies to propose this service very soon. And the last but not least, in these hard times for musicians, we have also planned to support youth and promising European music talent with as a target to create synergy and different exchange between European artists. It will go through different plans that we will start to deploy this year and mainly next year, but things are on its way. So thanks for your time, and let's discuss about all of this.
Thank you very much, Séverin, for presenting us this new music consumption service from Huawei. Now the floor goes to Antoine Monin with Spotify.
Hi everyone, thank you Maria Rosa, and thank you everyone for hosting this this panel, this presentation. The good news, or I don't know, the bad news, I don't have slides, but I have like many different topics to discuss. I think most of them will grow and rebound on what David has presented. I'm the head of music for Spotify France and Benelux, but I've been working in the music industry for more than 20 years. And I've seen the music industry going through these drastic changes, not to say, you know, terrible crisis that we saw in the early 2000s. And I think it's a very exciting era now to see what music streaming is bringing to the whole music ecosystem. So there is now, you know, maybe 15 or 20 years from now, you know, it would have been difficult to assess that, but it is now clear that streaming creates new value for artists and rights holder, and has really put the music market back on a strong growth trajectory. Just an example for that, as of 2020, Spotify has paid over $23 billion in royalties to rights holders since its creation. But this number is very steadily growing year over year. And, you know, we paid over $5 billion in 2020 alone, up from $3.3 billion in 2017. So this growth of music streaming in the music recording market is very important. For example, we can see, yesterday the SNEP, which is the phonographic body for France, published its results for 2021. And the SNEP results for the French recording music market show that there is a continuous growth of the contribution of streaming services to the recovery of the French music economy. Revenues from streaming in France were multiplied by 5 in 10 years, and they now represent 70% of recorded music revenues. And there's another very important note, I think, to me, and there is another example in the SNEP study, is that streaming does not only generate growing streaming revenues for artists and rights holders, it is also driving growth for the other revenues that help artists make a living. And there are many examples to that. Live ticket sales, we can see like there is a strong correlation between streaming users engagement and live ticket sales for festivals, concerts, etc. Obviously, the pandemic was, has been a hard blow to that growth, but we are hopeful that as live shows resume, this correlation between streaming usage and live shows will continue. So there is live ticket revenues, but it's also merchandising or physical formats. Another very interesting figure that I took away from the SNEP panel is that 39% of French music streaming subscribers are also buying physical formats. So we shouldn't oppose, music consumption means or consumption trends, because all these consumption means are just interoperating. And when you're an engaged music streamer, you are, mostly buying vinyl of your favorite artist, probably buying merchandising and live tickets. And streaming and Spotify is at the core of this, because we develop as many tools as we can to help artists grow their own other activities and other revenue streams. This is really at the core of Spotify's mission and belief that we are part of a much larger flywheel to help artists develop and deepen their relations with their fans and grow their careers. Another important change that was brought with this music streaming era is creators empowerment. And to that point, Spotify is really investing heavily in creating tools for artists to develop their careers. We'll take the example of Spotify for Artists, which is a platform dedicated to all creators, music creators, where they can access their streaming data, which is very important to inform them on their decisions and their possibilities to grow their audience. It will help them create new features for their fans. It can be some visual aspects, link their merchandise or the ticket sales to their Spotify profile. So that will promote their tours, and boost their ticket sales and merchandising sales. We also believe in bringing as much transparency to artists as we can on how their audience is shaping on Spotify, but also on how the streaming economy works and how the money flows. We know it's a very important topic now, and we want to address this as much as we can. So we recently launched several informational websites. One is called Loud and Clear, that was launched last year, who goes into the details of how the money flows into the music streaming business. And another site called Made to be Found, which is also informing artists on how their audience is shaping up and building on Spotify and how to grow their audience on Spotify. A few examples from that. In our Loud and Clear website, we show how many artists are generating different revenue thresholds just on Spotify. So for example, in 2020, more than 13,000 artists have generated more than $50,000 on Spotify over a year alone. But more importantly, this number of artists generating $50,000 on a year has grown by 80% over the last 4 years. So we can also, show how this growing of music streaming is also, bringing more value and money to rights holders and hopefully artists. So the truth is, nowadays, artists have a much wider choice in how they want to start and develop their career. They can choose to be totally independent or choose different levels of collaborations and support with many different distributors, independent or major labels. And this is a major evolution from the pre-streaming music market economy. The music market economy is more open now and more diverse. because diversity and discovery are also at the heart of our mission and values at Spotify. We also think we contribute significantly to a much more diverse and open music landscape, as I said before. We also see that streaming users' engagement on Spotify is constantly increasing, and David's number from the IFPI shows that as well. For instance, the average listening time for a paid streaming user in France has more than doubled in 2 years, with more than 3.5 hours of weekly average listening time. And what we see, there is a direct correlation to the fact that this growing engagement is also driving discovery of new artists. In France, for the first year, streaming has now become the #1 driver for discovering new artists above radio and other sources. Spotify is also actively developing new formats to promote the emergence of new talents and diversity. For example, we have a program called Radar, who supports hundreds of emerging artists across the globe. We also have a program called Equal, who promotes women in music from all genres and origins across several countries. And I have a very interesting example. Over the last few weeks, we just launched our Equal playlist and our Equal program, promoting local women artists in Pakistan. So just to conclude and give us time for questions after that, I would say that music streaming is at the core of a profound evolution of the music market. It opens more opportunities for artists across the globe, enables more transparency and more diversity in the global music landscape. But of course, not everything is perfect yet. Only a few markets have reached maturity in the streaming economy. And while there is still tremendous growth to build that will eventually benefit creators, I think we are only at the beginning of the music streaming revolution. Thank you for your attention.